Hello everyone, this is John from Untitled and Twisted and welcome back to my complete Paper Princess tutorial. Today we're working on part 6, which will be about creating the head and the hair. This is probably the most complicated part of the project, so just be sure to take it one step at a time and also make sure to take a break if you do feel frustrated at any point. Our first steps are nice and simple, however, so take 10 strips of your brown quilling paper, again 3mm wide and 30cm in length, and you're going to roll these into a tight coil and glue the end down. Very familiar process for us at this point. Remove the coil from the tool and flatten the edges with the handle of your slotted quilling tool. Mine was a little bit tight, so I had to use the up and down shift method to loosen it up. So next we're just going to use our thumbs to push the coil into a really shallow dome, and then we're going to pinch one end firmly to give it a pointed edge. Just be careful not to push the shape and pop the coil, and just use your fingers to round out the shape so it's nice and even looking, and then we can coat the inside with our layer of PVA glue, and this will complete the back of the head. Then we're going to make the exact same shape again using 9 flesh coloured strips so that it will be slightly smaller than the first, and this will form the face. Once both these pieces are dry, you can put a small blob of glue in each one, scrunch up a small ball of tissue paper and place it inside, and this will help keep the head rounded and avoid squishing it flat. If your pieces don't quite connect, you can add a bit more glue. I always think it's a good sign if you get a little bit oozing out the sides. Not too much, but just a little bit shows that there was enough inside to hold those pieces together. Next, I would wait a little while for the headpiece to set, and then you can add a tiny blob of glue to both the pointed end of the head and the top of the neck. Press these pieces together and hold them for as long as you possibly can in order to give the glue the best chance for it to bond. You will know if you've held it long enough because if you let go, the head should stay attached. If it does, then leave this to dry until all of the visible glue has turned clear and shiny. So in order to make the next parts, we're going to take more of the brown quilling paper, we're going to tear it in half, and in half again, so you end up with 4 smaller strips, and you're going to need quite a lot of these. Take a small strip and add glue to the tip so that you can attach it to your figure like so. You might also find it useful to use your quilling tool to make sure you can press it in place. Follow the same procedure and add another strip to the left of this one, and you're going to repeat this over and over until you've done about 5 strips on one side, and then you're going to do the same for the other side. So for now I'm just going to set this aside to dry, and in the meantime I'm going to take another 2.5 strips of the brown quilling paper and glue them end to end like you can see on screen in order to create one long strip. Then we're going to take a bunch of those smaller quarter strips that we made earlier on, and we're going to attach them to the longer strip just like so. Now there is no right or wrong to this, and there's no set amount for how many you need to attach, and it also doesn't matter how far apart they are. They don't have to be too even, just stick a bunch of them down every couple of centimetres across the whole strip. Just bear in mind that the more you add, the thicker the hair will be. So when you reach the last section, you're going to stop and take half a strip of your golden yellow quilling paper and attach it to the end like so. Once you've done that, you can roll the long strip into a tight coil. Just make sure that you start with the brown side so that becomes the centre of your coil, and you finish with the golden yellow on the outside. While doing so, we need to take great care that the coil stays as level as possible, as you're not going to be able to roll the edges flat at the end. So once you've glued the end down, you can remove the coil from the slotted quilling tool and use your fingertip to push the inside into a shallow dome, and then you can coat the inside with a thin layer of PVA glue so that it retains this shape. Now we can set this aside to dry, and by this point the pieces we attached to the head earlier on will be dry, so we can bring that back and style the front of the hair, or the fringe if that's what you'd like to call it. For this you will need a very fine pair of scissors, such as the ones I'm using here, which are the Quilled Creations Precision Scissors. Now to begin styling the hair, we're going to take PVA glue and apply a small dot on the side of the head level with the bottom strip, and then one more at the back of the head in the very centre. Take your slotted quilling tool and you're going to roll that bottom strip into a tight coil. Once you get to the end, you're going to angle your tool slightly and pull away so that the strip starts to curl. Now swing it around and then place it into the blobs of glue that we put on earlier. You might need to press it down firmly to ensure it sticks. And then you can take your precision scissors and trim off the end of the strip. And we're just going to repeat this process for all of the strips that are attached to the front, curling them, gluing them to the back, and then trimming off the excess. So once you've styled the front of the hair, you can bring back the other piece that we made earlier. Place a blob of glue inside and insert more of those quarter length strips that we tore earlier. You can use your slotted quilling tool or the nozzle of your glue to press these pieces in place. Once again, there is no set amount, just know that the more you add, the thicker the hair will be. This is your project, so when you feel like you've added enough strips, then you can fill about 3/4 of the rest of the dome with some PVA glue and press it onto the back of the head, covering the ends of the strips that we glued down earlier. Wipe away any excess glue that oozes out, and then leave this doll to dry for a couple of hours, maybe overnight if you can, to make sure that it's fully dry and that the piece remains attached and firmly attached. Once you have given it time to dry, then we can move on to styling the hair. So we're going to start with the upper part, where we're going to turn this into a kind of fancy updo kind of bun. So starting top centre, we're going to first apply a dot of glue on the edge where the brown meets the band of golden yellow. We're going to roll this strip of paper closest to it into a tight coil, and we're going to press it firmly into the glue. Apply another dot of glue to the side of the first one. Find the next strip that's closest to it, and then roll that into a tight coil and press that one firmly into the glue. And we're going to continue in this fashion, making your way around the entire circle. Once that first layer is done, we're going to repeat that same process and create a second layer all the way around the circle, just as before. Now, I will say that this process can look like a bit of a hot mess at first, but stick with it, it will all be worth it in the end. It's also a good idea to have some kind of cloth or baby wipe on hand so that you can keep your fingers and your slotted quilling tool clean of the glue, because you don't want bits of dried glue to be stuck into the hair, because that will just ruin the effect. So here we're continuing the process for all of the strips, forming layers until you reach the very end. Now, if you do run out of strips before the end, or like me, it comes out before you get to sticking it down, you can just roll up an extra strip of this size into a tight coil and glue it into position. So here you can see the finished bun, and now we can get on to the final part, which is styling the part of the hair that isn't tied up. So just like we did with the fringe pieces, we're going to place a dab of glue where we want the hair to be. So we're going to choose an appropriate shoulder length hair for Belle. We're going to roll the strips up into a tight coil and angle the slotted quilling tool and pull it so that the strip will curl. Once the piece is long enough, you're going to press the rest of the coil firmly into the glue and then carefully remove it from the tool. So you're going to continue in this fashion for all of your remaining strips. Now I will say that it doesn't matter where you place each strip, and there's no specific order to this. I feel it's more instinctual. You'll have a feeling of what you think is going to look best, so just follow your gut. But I will say that you should be aiming for all of the pieces to be about the same length. I know some people who perhaps haven't made one of these figures before will be a bit nervous about just going with it. So I will leave this clip rolling in its entirety. I won't cut any of it out so that you can see where and how I do place each individual strip in case you do need that little bit more guidance and reassurance that you're doing it correctly. So I'm just going to turn on a little bit of music now for the couple of minutes that this clip is playing, and I'll be back towards the end of the video for a final message. So once you've placed that last paper strip, you can stop and you can relax. You have completed part 6 of this tutorial and you should be immensely proud of everything you've achieved so far. You know, I had to practice these and have multiple goes, so if you do manage to do this first time, then that is a big deal. You really should be congratulating yourself that you're doing so well. So the final part of this tutorial will be uploaded tomorrow. In it, I will walk you through adding some finishing touches to really make your piece pop. I want to say a huge thank you to everybody who is following along and watching these videos. Don't forget to update me on how you're getting along. I would love to see your finished projects. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new around here and hit that notification bell to be notified when I upload my next video. Thank you once again for watching, and I will see you tomorrow for the final part of this tutorial. Bye guys!